Is everyone right? We've now got the item 37, options for decision making for the Eastern Rec and Sports Centre. John Fussell. Who else have we got? Dave Adamson. Oops. This is on your supplementary agenda. Right. Just because of the sensitivities of the fact that two of our councillors are on the Burwood Pegasus Community Board, I haven't even discussed it with them, but I was going to suggest that myself and Vicky move and second the staff recommendation and the subsequent resolutions, which I've moved, which I've included in the report as well. Just pro forma. I mean, have you got the other resolutions as well?
I actually felt I wanted Vicky to be the seconder for the previous report. I don't know whether we can change it.
Sorry?
Oh, just the previous report. Just thinking about it, I wanted Vicky to be the seconder. Just given the. No, I just thought it meant a big. Eh?
No, she just wanted to get finished.
Oh right.
So.
Okay. All right.
Can you change them to from 1, 2, 3 to 3? Can you go down to the subsequent resolutions? Yeah, the Mayor's proposal, and just we'll deal with them as one paper, and can you put those 3 resolutions as 37.3, yep, and there's a couple of words that need to be changed on the last one. Hang on, Phil, I'll just sort this. 37.4, no, 37.3, that's right, isn't it? Or is it 4, the first one? Yeah, and 37.5. Could you take out the first sentence of that? No, agree that a council will be a willing seller to the Minister of the QE2 site, and take that out up to the word site, delete that. And then start the sentence once the final parameters of the school's requirements for the QE2 site are settled, take out the word thereby and authorise staff to negotiate. And then it doesn't talk about lease or sale or anything like that. It just talks about negotiating with the ministry on a unilateral basis. All right? Phil?
I've got a further amendment that I'd suggest too. Do you want me to speak to that now, or just flag that I've got an amendment? Just to add, it's really to add to the staff recommendations 5.1, 5.2. So I'm not sure it fits with yours.
Hang on, can we go back up and let's just see if they're compatible, or whether we can throw them in? Yep.
So my amendment is in relation to what's on page 419 and at the end of 3.1.3, where there's reference there to conditions really for option 3, that there be consultation with the community, and also the the role and function is the second point. But my point is about the third one, where the references to not increasing the capital and operational costs over the life of the facility, but it's also, I just like those sort of matters, especially in the capital building costs, to be reported back to council, probably by way of the chaired committee.
Well, hang on. Sorry.
So it was particularly if there's to be any cost overrun. Thank you, David, and that's excellent. And I guess this is just really clarifying what would happen. Like that is the current practice, and this, I'm just really asking this be for absolute clarity. I should have.
Well, no, we don't want an amendment that says in the event of any cost overrun. There is no ability to have a cost overrun. There is no ability for anyone to spend more money than is budgeted for.
Well,
I think that the phrase that you want is that any changes to facility scope, design, components or otherwise cannot result in an increase to any of these budgets without an express decision of the council, which is what's stated in the paper. I don't mind if do you want the costs and everything to come back via the via your committee rather than the Burwood Pegasus Community Board?
No, the chaired committee would pertain to.
No, but why?
Well, it's sort of like.
It says instruct officers take all reason to be able to report back to council through the Burwood Pegasus Community Board. Why would it come through a committee and not through the community board?
Well, it could, and I guess I'm just wanting to guarantee that it's absolutely clear that council be across any additional expense. I guess. Okay, we do not. It's quite clear there will not be a cost overrun.
Yeah.
I guess just to ensure that in fact that does happen, that information comes back to the committee, and as David has said, that's regular reporting anyway.
Well, look, can we just write in a 3.7 it's 3.73, yeah, it is. And just take the second sentence of the financial implications of the paper. Is that all right? Any changes to facility scope, design, components or otherwise cannot result in an increase to any of these budgets without an express decision of the council. That's making it crystal clear.
That's clear. Yep.
I'm happy
with that too. And I think the staff are in agreement that can happen. Thank you.
And maybe it should actually, that should be 37.2 and...
It could just be added.
Sorry?
Could it just be added?
Could they add it, or you want it separate?
I think Councillor Clearwater is saying that he would like to have it explicit in here, what's included in the paper.
I am, and I can add to that if you like.
With the updated design, procurement options and culture. Okay, you could put a semicolon after sooner. I think they just don't want to change the numbers. So put a semicolon after sooner and put noting yeah. So take out the 37.3, take it back up. So it's all in one. Noting that any changes to the and take it so that it's at the end of the sentence, so it's part of the paragraph. So just do a delete after the semicolon. We'll probably bring it up. Oh, that was a good idea.
And did you want to change the date from November?
I don't know. Do people want to leave the date at November? Are we able to change the date? Are you able to bring it forward to October?
It does say or sooner if possible. So
yeah, but October or sooner if possible? I mean, is that possible?
The risk is we committed to November when council considered this report in March. We're a couple of months down the track and we're still looking at November. I think October's going to be difficult. That's why we put in or sooner. Our aim would be to do it as quickly and effectively as possible, making sure we do a good job. October might be making a promise we can't fulfil or setting an expectation that might be difficult.
Well, I think you're getting the clear message from council that we'd like to see it sooner. All right. So are there any questions that people have of staff around the whole lot? Because I wouldn't mind commenting on my paper because it does raise a number of issues that have been sort of sitting in the background to this particular issue. So would people like me to just comment quickly on the issues that I've raised? There are two things that I think have hindered what was a process that was intended to be an incredibly positive and in my view, an incredibly powerful process. I actually went back to the 4th of September recording of the Urquhart meeting that where the resolution that was passed, which has become the subject of so much angst, that particular meeting, it was amazing to watch, to go back and watch and to see the excitement on everyone's face when the resolution was carried. And I know we were all out there in North New Brighton, and that there was a real sense of achievement. And so it was really disappointing to find that members of the Community Advisory Group had become disenfranchised. And it was interesting because this morning, and this is why I wanted this report done at the same time as Robert Jurgovic, who spoke for the Community Advisory Group, to have him here for this part of the debate, because when he spoke this morning, you could see the excitement at the prospect of having two schools coming into the Burwood Pegasus area, and for it to be co-located with the Eastern Sport and Rec Centre. That may not have happened. And that incredible sense of excitement and opportunity is what we want to see. And it's what every single person I speak to out there tells me is the feeling, and then it somehow gets translated into this sense of disenfranchisement. But, you know, when Robert was speaking this morning and he talked about the sense of loss and the sense of, you know, even navigating your way around the streets out there, I know what it's like. I live out there. I don't live as far east as I used to. But, well, you do, yeah. And it does have an impact, and it's a psychological impact that you cannot explain. And I was saying this at a meeting we were having the other day, when I think it was Charles Montgomery was over here, and I said, I used to love driving back from the airport after having been in Wellington and going down Anzac Drive, seeing the poppies and driving down Anzac Drive, and then going across the Anzac Bridge with those fantastic fronds, just that whole sense. And I used to sit back and I used to think, this is wonderful. I love it. And I was going home. And to tell you the truth, about a year after the earthquakes, my heart used to sink when I got to the poppies. And I actually used to feel like, oh no, I'm going home. And nobody should have to feel like that, but that's what people feel like out there. And I think sometimes, those of us that don't live there should go out there sometime and just think what it's like day after day after day. It is a grind. So I kind of want to do what I can to clear the air, because it's apparent that my amendment caused some of the misunderstanding. So the relevant amendment, or the relevant clause, was in 4.4 on the 4th of September, which stated, instructs staff to re-engage with the Community Advisory Group to inform the scope of the facility, and that should any further significant information come to light which the Community Board considers may impact on the location, then the Community Advisory Group should be reconvened to consider the further information. Now, there are several things about that resolution. One is that we were waiting to see whether we were waiting for the findings of the feasibility study in relation to the geotech reports for the site. So was the site good enough to build on? And instructing staff to re-engage with the Community Advisory Group to inform the scope of the facility. That was the statement that sat there on its own. I added the rest of the words. Instructing staff to re-engage with the Community Advisory Group to inform the scope of the facility was not something that occurred. Staff already had the advice from the Community Advisory Group as to what they believe the scope of the facility should be, and they also then had the benefit of hearing the CAG present to the Community Board on matters of scope in relation to that. So there wasn't a separate re-engagement on the scope. When it came to that meeting, that was to inform them that the Ministry had chosen that site for the two schools and to inform them of what the scope would be. And that, I think, led to a significant degree of misunderstanding. The second point was that the reason that I moved the second part of it was that if the land wasn't suitable, then you wouldn't necessarily want to go to option 2. You want to go back and talk to the Community Advisory Group as to whether option 2 still really was. You'd want to test it again in the absence of their preferred site. And the second reason that I moved it was that if the Ministry of Education had chosen Burwood Park and we were agreeable to that occurring, then would you want to revisit the site? And I thought, well, that's not something that the council should predict. That's something triggered by the Community Board. So the Community Board had to decide that there was further significant information that would trigger further involvement. So the intention of it, and I know that people have said that I moved the motion in order that the Community Board would be reconvened if the decision was made, if the two schools were to convene on the QE2 site. It's the complete opposite. It was if the decision wasn't that one, because that was the decision that really we all wanted, and it's fantastic news for the community. I don't think that the Community Advisory Group will be, or members of the Community Advisory Group will be disenfranchised by the process that we now propose, which is to make sure that we get a very good partnership agreement in place between the Council, the Burwood Pegasus Community Board, the local office of the Ministry, Shirley Boys High School and Avonside Girls to facilitate a shared engagement with the wider community over the co-location of the Eastern Rec and Sports Centre and the two schools, and to maximise all of the opportunities that this will bring to the community. This is a facility that needs to be jointly master planned. It has to be, because this is, and I keep saying this, the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. It's something that we really do need to think about. What can we bring? You know, is the school really going to, are the two schools going to need student health facilities when there's a medical centre there? Is this an opportunity for the medical centre to expand what it offers? You know, so there are so many different things, you know, early childhood education in the area as well. You know, there are so many issues that, and you can start to think. I mean, when you think of how many thousand kids will be coming into the area on a daily basis?
Many thousands.
Yeah, so, well, that wasn't the answer I was looking for, but if you know what I mean, can you think of those kids as the assets, bringing all of their energy and talent into the area? So I just think that the opportunities are magnificent. I expect to see the Travis wetlands replanted, you know, sort of with all of this additional help coming in, you know, from their neighbouring schools. And I just think the opportunities are absolutely fantastic. So, so that's why I did want to clarify this, choosing the staff option for the Community Board to be engaged in each aspect of the scope and concept design of the Eastern Rec and Sport, and getting that report back to here, but in the meantime entering into a partnership agreement that broadens the conversation beyond the Community Advisory Group to a shared engagement with the wider community over the co-location potential. I don't think that that's disrespectful to the role that they've played up until now, and it is a role that I think would be useful for ring-fenced components of decisions in the future. But I think that there is a little bit of still a little element of repairing relationships that I'm very happy to assist with in whatever way that I can. But I'm sure that each and every one of those community advisory group members will continue to be the passionate, energetic and committed advocates for their area, as they always have been, and will also find a way of engaging in this process in the way that they have in the past. So is there anyone who would like to comment on that, or we can debate it if you like? Yep. David? Glenn?
Look, the issue of this facility sort of dragged on for quite some time now, and I really just like to thank John and his team for this report that's before us today. I think really the 1.1 summarises things. This is a report presenting options on decision-making process around the facility, the scope, and it's a result of the workshop that we had with Chet and the community board a few weeks ago. Highlighting some other points here, in 3.1 we state in this report that the shared goal of the stakeholders is building the very best facility that meets the community need within the agreed funding allocation as quickly and as reasonably as possible. I couldn't stress that one anymore. And really, you know, there's been a lot of concern expressed about the role of various groups in the community. And all the options that have been presented rely on community engagement and consultation, so no one's going to miss out in this role. We're just broadening the sphere of involvement and getting a greater cross-section of the community, giving them a greater chance to participate. Look, I really do support the option 3, because it really does, and I'll just quote from the report again, it's conditional on the board consulting with the community in line with the council's best practice. It's also conditional on any alterations to the scope and design not changing the intended role and function of the facility and not increasing the capital and operational costs over the life of this facility. It's quite clear what the role is, and I think there's some very good outcomes that can come out of it. Looking at 3.5, just the advantages and disadvantages of option 3. Most appropriate for the list of reasons that are there, and I really think the last 3 are quite good to emphasise again. Provides for a wide-ranging community consultation led by the elected community board to inform the concept design. It will limit potential delays to the project from rescoping. It will not impact on the overall affordability and high-level role and the function of this facility. I think the Mayor has well elucidated the role of the CAG in the process to date, and the fact that they're not going to be disenfranchised. They're part of the wider community, and I think that we will, in the fullness of time, get the greatest outcome. And I think it's been well referenced here today that we have had the fantastic opportunity of Shirley Boys High and Avonside Girls High relocating in the eastern suburbs. We are rebuilding a community sport and recreation facility, and I think the combination of the facilities that the school will offer that are available for the community as well as the publicly owned community recreation facilities will be one of the greatest. It'll probably end up being sort of the second hub behind Ngāpunawai in the city. So I am very keen to support this proposal. I have said to meeting with John a couple of days ago that I really am keen to see this facility constructed and located in such a manner that should we ever need to expand upon the facility in 5 years' time, and there's a need for another pool or diving facilities, or heaven forbid another 50-metre pool, that we can build it. But let's get on and do this facility now. I think the capacity that's in this facility will be phenomenal, and again, in a loose conversation with John a couple of days ago, I believe that we could create a facility there that, as a bare minimum, will have 10 lanes available for swimming. If we adopted a small variation, we could increase that by another 4. And if we're very cunning with our leisure pool, the way we configure that, we could probably get another 4 or 5 lanes of swimming in there. So the potential is there to actually create a huge amount of public usage and avoid some of the conceptions that the school may take over or some other group may take over. I believe we've got the potential to make a great facility, and I would urge fellow councillors to support option 3. Let's get on with this project as quickly as we can. As we know, Metro Sports has been delayed till 2020. We urgently need some aquatic facilities in the city. So I'm very supportive and urge you all to support this, and let's get on with it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Glenn?
Yeah, look, just to say, I think, yep, let's crack on. This report gives me confidence that there will still be community involvement. We could have a share an idea along the lines of pool an idea. I think the process is a little bit like coming into Wellington, you know, on a plane you hit turbulence, but you eventually get there. And I'm not surprised that we've had a rocky road, to be honest, just with what's the community's gone through, the seismic events and a whole lot of things rendered them powerless. So it's right that they have a very significant part to play in determining how this works together. All up, I guess, and this was the original intention of Eastern Vision, was to have that overarching strategy, because if you look at this in terms of an arc, you've got huge investment going in Burwood Hospital, 2 k's away. You come to QE2, huge investment going in there, and then 2 k's further on, if we can further invest in New Brighton, that, you know, that kind of central local government partnership in terms of investment in the area. This is what I'm hearing. So I think if we can join it all up and make it work, that would be good. But yeah, let's keep pushing forwards and try to take the community with us.
Excellent. The only comment that I'll just make at the end is that, you know, when we go out there to tender, I'm sure that there are going to be interested parties, because I hear this message everywhere I go, that if you put the dollars and cents out there rather than the scope and say, what could you build for this, then we're going to get a much better deal and a much bigger scope. So we're going to, I mean, it's pretty clear that there are people sitting there waiting for contracts like this to come into the market, as it were, who say to us, we have been able to deliver in other cities in New Zealand. So this is not even, you know, a pie-in-the-sky, non-comparable environment. We're talking pretty straightforward companies who know what they're doing, who can do better than what we think we can get for the scope and the cost that we put on it. I was just winding up the debate.
I was just going to explain what I meant.
Yeah. Sorry, but no, and no, I totally agree with your amendment. I mean, I think your amendment's fine. So, and it sits here.
It's only briefly that it's not to expect, and this is particularly with the councillors and the community board. There's no expectation that in any way that the community board, the delegation to the community board, is minimised. It's really just for clarity for us as a decision.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely fine. But I think the point that I was making is that there are companies out there who are looking at contracts like this and who are going to deliver us a heck of a lot more. No, I'm sorry, I just wanted to end that debate there. I only spoke because it was the last wind-up. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And I will move, and Vicky will second, that we take the PX motion as per item 24 on the agenda for all the reasons set out in the attachment. And I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.